Yes, sir. I think that's what people are waiting for eh. Kailan magsasampa ng kaso kasi medyo matagal na rin, several weeks already since he left the country. Actually,
Since he responded to Congress, to the House, the new House Speaker, saying
Ang
that he
maganda
will
lang
not
kasi
be
dito, I
coming back.
started working on this as DOJ, and I'm on my third day now in the Ombudsman's office. And it can be done. There's a continuity naman sa investigation nito.
Heto nga ho ang pag-uusapan natin ngayon, mga ka-reaction update PH. Ito po kasing mag-asawang diskaya, hindi na ho magsasalita o makikipag-cooperate dyan sa ICI sa kadahilan ng mga ka-update. Para nga naman ho silang pinagmumukhang pinakautak o mastermind dito sa mga ghost project, di ba? Yan po ang katotohanan ngayon. Tapos ang nangyari, yung pinaka sinusumbong o yung pinaka dinadawit, tinuturo, siya pa ang magiging state witness. Kaya ngayon, ayaw na hong makipag-cooperate nitong mag-asayan diskaya. Siyempre, hindi po natin sila masisisi ngayon. 'Di ba? Kung ano ang pwedeng gawin sa kanila. Isipin mo yon, tinuturo na ho idinadawit na etong si Tambonjing, pero ano hong ginagawa? Gagawin ho siyang state witness. Bibigyan siya ng protection. Siyempre, wala na hong pag-asa na naman dyan. Kaya ngayon na, eto pong si Boeing nagsalita rin, na siyempre, ligtas na nga naman, etong si Martin Romualdez, ididikdik naman po niyan nila dyan, mga ka-update, si Zaldy ko, na sinabi nga ho niya rito, mga ka-update, na pwedeng maharap sa Malversation. Yeah? At ang kanyang passport, mga ka-update, pwedeng i-cancela. Siyempre, yan po ang parang Paul guy na lang nila. Hindi na ipapangalanan o idadawit pa si Tambaluslos kahit na sanggang dikit yung mga yan. Kaya ito po ang mahirap ngayon. 'Di ba? Noong si Senator Marcoleta ang chair dyan sa Blue Ribbon, nakikipag-cooperate na nga ho ang mga ayan eh. Gusto nga pong bigyan ng witness protection program pero ayaw nga nila kasi nga alam nyo na, dawit daw. Gusto naman ni Senator Marcoleta hulihin yung mga malalaking isda. Tapos ayaw ho nila. Ayaw ho ng gobyerno ni Marcos. Kaya ngayon, ayaw na ho nila makipag-cooperate. Ayaw na ho talaga nila. Kasi nga, sila po yung pinagmumukhang mastermind na hindi naman daw po yan totoo. Basahin na lang ho natin mga kabdita. Sa kabila ng paglalahad namin ng aming nalalaman, tila ba kami ang gustong palabasin na mastermind. Hindi po mangyayari ang lahat ng ito kung walang politiko. Nasabi na po namin kung sino ang mga iyon. Ngunit ayaw pakinggan. Para saan pa ang pag-cooperate namin sa ICI na yan kung iba ang gusto nilang tumbukin namin. O di ba? Diyan pa lamang ho sa naging pahayag ng mag-asawang diskaya. Talaga naman hong ayaw nilang sila yung dikdikin o magturo ng ibang tao kasi gusto na naman ng mga ito, mga kadik, ipalabas na dawit din sila kay Pangulong Duterte. Siyempre, ganyan naman po yung mga palabas nila. Pipilit ho nila yan sa mga Duterte. Ayan na, tuloy lang ho natin. Kaya ang nagdesisyon kaming manahimik na lang sa korte namin sasabihin ang aming lahat ng nalalaman dahil doon naman ang proper venue. Tama naman ho to mga kapdig. Isa pa, etong ombudsman, talagang kikilabutan ho sila. Nanggigigil ho sa kanila yan si Boeing Remula. Diba? Ipipilit ho na netong si Boeing Remula na hindi masali o masangkot ang kanyang best friend na si Tambaluslos. Diba? Yan po yung mahirap eh. Idinidikdik nila yung tao na eto mga parang biktima lang din talaga to kung totoosin mga ka-update eh. Kasi sila yung kinuha nitong si Tambaluslos ni Zaldy ko. 'Di ba? Ngayon sila yung pinipiga para ma-save yung mga politikong nadawit dito. Ang masakit po nito, tila ba yung isang tao na pwedeng pinakautak ang siya pa ang state witness, which is unfair. 'Di ba? Isipin mo, sabihin yan ng isang nagsasalita na ng ganyan. Unfair nga naman. Kung sino yung pinakautak, bakit ho siya ang state witness? Diba? Sino pa iimbestigahan nila? Mag-iikot-ikot na naman po tayo dyan mga ka-update. Wala na naman hong mangyayari. Kaya ang posibilidad dito mga ka-update mabasura na naman yung mga ghost project, yung mga tao dyan. Madidigdig lang dyan si Zaldy ko, etong mga diskaya, at yung mga small time. Pero yung mga mastermind, wala hong mangyayari. Kaya mga ka-update hindi na makikipag-cooperate etong mag-asawang diskaya. Kaya mga update, rekta na ho tayo pag-usapan din natin etong kakaharapin ni Zaldy ko na talaga namang pinagtatakpan ho nila etong mga tiwali, mga kasama ni Zaldy ko na malalaking tao pa. Wala ho tayong magagawa mga kabdit kundi palayasin sa pwesto yung mga crocodile na yan. Kaya mga kabdit, bago ho tayo magsimula, isang like, isang share, isang subscribe lamang, malaking tulong na ho yan sa atin.
Ang hinarap sa mga tao, of course, they're looking for blood of the contractors involved, but they're also looking more than that for justice as far as government officials are concerned, and which is, of course, the bigger, the more primary concern of the ombudsman. People who are in office, people who are in power, for example, members of Congress or the Senate, down the line. So maliban po sa pag-file mga kaso against contractors, ano po ang status dun sa pagsasampa ng mga kaso against people in the legislature who, not just with conflict of interest, because kasi conflict of interest parang 6713 lang yan more than that is...
Hindi, you cannot say that anymore. Kasi dito, you have people who were holding major positions in the House, who became contractors themselves
Yes, sir.
in their own districts. Kaya, iba na ito. Iba na usapan to. Wala na talagang delikadesa. Delikadesa flew off the window.
Yes, sir.
Diba?
Yes, sir.
So you can say it's so simple. We have to get the modus operandi. We have to get the list of contracts. We have to rebuild all the data for us to be able to lay down a proper case. We have to gather the evidence. Pero andyan talaga, you're talking about billions now. Hindi lang siya mere conflict of interest. You're talking about billions being lost by government to conflict of interest.
But I guess what you're saying is mababaw lang yung conflict of interest charge. We
Yes,
want to
sir.
see
Yes, sir.
plunder. We want to see
Malversation.
malversation.
It's possible to be plunder, Ami. Possible yan. But it really depends on the evidence. Kung malversation, kung conflict of interest, whatever it takes, whatever legal provision is needed to convict people, we will do it.
Can this case
Diba? Pagdyan sa media mga ka-update, ang tatapang ho nila. Pero yan lamang ang kaya nilang idikdik yung mga fall guy ho nila. Pero itong si Tamba safe na safe ngayon. At si Marcos, si Sandro Marcos, lahat ho ba't hindi po natin imbestigahan yung Ilocos, yung lugar ni Sandro Marcos. Silipin lang ho natin kung anong meron dyan, kung may nakawan ba dyan, o para malaman ho natin kung hindi mabisto yung mga taong yan. Silipin din ho natin itong lugar ni Tambalslos diyan sa Leyte. Kung meron nga ba talaga silang proyekto na napapagawa o puro pambubulsa lang. Diba? Wala ho silang mapapakita. Kaya lahat ho gagawin ho nila para pagtakpan niyang dalawang yan.
If we have to get them by tax evasion, we will get them by tax evasion, but we will do it.
But can this investigation succeed? Meaning, may mapaprosecute, may makukulong,
Meron.
without the testimony, without the cooperation of the Diskayas, who seem to be at the center of it all. Kasi sila yung...
We can do it without them, and we can bring them to court very soon on our own accord, without their testimony, and just looking at the AMLA records. Pwede na namin sila i-demanda.
Okay.
Sir, you're talking about the legislators, sir, or the Discayas? Who are you talking about bringing them to court immediately?
Yan, that is kayas. Kasi nga,
Okay.
tinatanong nyo kung kayang i-charge pag di sila co-operate. Kaya. Kaya naman.
Hindi, pero yung buong kaso, mabubuo ba siya, sir, if kahit walang cooperation ng
Segment by
Diskaya?
segment, ang mahalaga is we're able to get them for something so big that we will be able to recover a lot of money from them for the government. Yun talaga yung aim natin dito, yung restitution and retribution. Dalawa yan eh. Hindi lang naman yung restitution lang yan. Yung retribution paano? Wala na? Wala na. Pag sinuli ang pera? Hindi.
Sure, the other question on everybody's mind is Zaldy ko. I mean, he's still out in the wind. We don't know where he is. What's our position as far as he is concerned? Ano man pwedeng ihabol sa kanya at this particular point? Is there anything substantial already that can be filed against him for any violation at all?
Meron. From the testimony of Alcantara, meron na siyang direct dealing with Zaldy ko. So it can happen already.
No. How far are you?
Sa pag ganun, pwede ipa-cancel yung passport na niya kapag meron ng
Possible na. Pagka may kaso na, pag nakasampa na yung kaso, yun ang batas natin eh. We cannot cancel passports without proper purpose dapat.
Yes, sir. I think that's what people are waiting for. Kailan magsasampa ng kaso kasi medyo matagal na rin, several weeks already since he left the country. Actually,
Since he responded to Congress, to the new House Speaker, saying that he will not be
I
coming back.
started working on this as DOJ, and I'm on my third day now in the Ombudsman's office. And it can be done. There's a continuity naman sa investigation nito. And imagine it only happened because of the conflict because of the
Pag talaga nasa panig ka nitong si Boying Rimula, mga kablit, safe na safe kayo, no? Mantagin mo yun, Etong anak, yung anak niya, yung kaso ng anak niya dyan sa drugs at marijuana, kasado na. Diba? Malinis. Etong si Martin Romualdez, habang saan nakaluklok syempre, ombudsman na ho yan, mataas po talaga yung posisyon niya, na talagang siya ang batas. Kaya, tulad na lamang na sinabi ng best friend niya si Erwin Tulfo, you have to bend the law. O tignan mo, nabibend ho nila yung batas. Naiiwas ho nila sa Sakuna yung mga katropa nilang malalaki o matataas ang kapangyarihan. Kaya yan po ang nangyayari sa atin. Pamumulitiko. Diba? Kaya ngayon, diba, hinamon ho siya ni BP Sara na ready si BP Sarang bulat-latin yung salin niya. Lahat ng ari-arian niya, okay lang. Diba? Hindi ho takot si Sara Duterte kasi alam ho niya na hindi siya magnanakaw. Ba't hindi niyo pubuksan yung kina Marcos, kina Sandro Marcos, lahat ho, si Martin Romualdez? Ba't hindi ho nila yan imbestigahan kung totoong hindi siya maka-Marcos? Diba? Kasi hanggat sila ho'y nakaluklok, mga kabdil, pupuruhan lang ho nila yung taong bayan, yung mga Duterte at yung mga kaalyado ng pamilyang Duterte. Hanggat sila ho, mga kabdit, wala hong pagbabago sa ating bansa.
issue of protected witnesses that arose from the Senate hearings, kaya kami na-involved dyan. Of course, the President also instructed us later on to start investigating, to help investigate this mess. Because at that time, the Ombudsman's office was not yet moving or could not really be spoken to about this matter. And when I asked them about their output, when I arrived, parang halos wala pa.
Saka pag may case na sa kanya, ombudsman, pwede na siyang, you can ask for help na from Interpol,
Of course.
Or do you have to wait for an arrest warrant?
Of course, we need that. Blue notice pwede na May blue notice is
May blue
actually within the community, nag-uusap-usap na yan. Pero ang red notice talaga kinakailangan para pwede natin arrest.
Are you...
Cambio lang akong konti, ombudsman,
wait,
kasi
sorry,
pinag-usapan
Ami.
yung SALN ngayon
Wait, Ami, sorry, close ko lang yung...
Linawin ko lang.
Ami, sorry, close ko lang yung conversation about Zaldy ko.
Ano yan? Yeah.
Nakalimutan ko tuloy. What I was gonna ask.
Ako,
Are you
tanong
at
ko kailan
liberty, sir, are you at liberty to tell us ano po yung kaso that you're looking at against former Congressman Ko?
Malversation.
Malversation. Okay.
Plain and simple, yeah.
Based solely on Engineer Alcantara's testimony, or you have other evidence?
So far. But that's why we have to strengthen it more. Mahirap mag-file ng kasong mahina. Yun ang nagiging problema lagi sa prosecution ng cases sa ating bansa. Dati, sa probable cause, we end up with a lot of weak cases. We really have to raise the bar of evidence and really work better with the evidence that has to be laid out in court so that you can have a continuous trial and rest your case. Yun naman ang pinakamahalaga na dapat mangyari ngayon. Na meron naman provisions ng law that allow it, meron tayong rules of court that allow it, we have the Supreme Court issuances that allow continuous trial, but the government hardly went to that recourse because
Attorney Nicholas Kaufman, good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
How are you today?
I'm well, thank you. So is the former president, of course,
Thank you, Attorney.
more importantly.
Attorney, the pretrial chamber, one, recently rejected the renewed request for interim release, which you described as erroneous. Could you exemplify what makes the decision, in your view, legally and procedurally flawed?
When I describe a decision as being erroneous, I'm using legalese. It's a term that we have to use if we're going to make an appeal, because appeals are decided on the basis of errors of law and errors of fact. So we have identified what we believe to be a number of errors of law and fact in the decision on interim release. We've filed our notice of appeal, and today we've filed our brief in which we give our reasons for these alleged errors. Now, I'm not allowed to obviously detail those errors because the document has been filed confidentially.
Attorney, do you believe that the pretrial chamber, one, failed to properly consider all or any of the key arguments or evidences presented by the defense?
As I said, I've raised a number of issues on appeal, one of which is the failure to properly consider the very stringent conditions of release which were proffered by a state party. I'm not going to tell you which state party that is, but we believe that the first instance chamber, pre-trial chamber, should have taken these things under consideration and give a better weight to them. We believe that that was an error, but once again, I don't want to get drawn too much on the exact nature of the appeal. I'm not allowed to detail it.
Attorney Nick, the pretrial chamber, one, in its decision, has taken into account the public statement made by Vice President Sara Duterte. Do you consider this a form of injustice or a breach of judicial impartiality?
I don't want to comment on that, but some of the statements that were made by the Vice President were clearly made in jest. I mean, there was this comment about organizing a jailbreak, and I have to laugh at that, quite frankly. Everybody who hears that knows that it was a joke. No one can really seriously believe that the Vice President of a sovereign nation would organize a jailbreak from a place like this. I mean, come on, let's be real about this.
Because, Attorney, I was there when the Vice President made those statements.
Yes.
Yeah.
And you understood it as a joke just like everybody else.
Exactly, Attorney. Attorney Nick, in what ways might this inclusion of such statements influence directly or indirectly or prejudice the pretrial chamber one's decision-making processes?
Well, I think that excessive comments on the judicial activity is not something that should be encouraged. The judges of the International Criminal Court have a job to perform, just as counsel have a job to perform, and they shouldn't have their every act scrutinized in the media. Once again, I give the judges the credit of performing their duty as is expected, and I hope to convince them now on appeal that the former president should be released.
Attorney, in what ways should we take into account the timeline for the court to make or to render judgment to the appeal that you have submitted?
You mean a judgment on
the
interim release,
yes.
on appeal? Well, once again, the liberty of the individual, interim release, is a fundamental right. Obviously, that right can be curtailed if the judges find that there is cause to curtail that right. And the curtailment of that right is founded normally on three factors, one of which is the risk of flight, one being the risk of interference with witnesses, and the final one being the risk of continuing commission of crimes. But as I said, it's a fundamental right which should be decided speedily, expeditiously, and I anticipate that once the pre-trial chamber has received all the submissions, obviously the prosecution will have to respond to our appeal, and also the victims will be given the opportunity to respond to our appeal. I anticipate that a decision should be rendered within the month.
Within a month, okay. Attorney, while the appeal on the appeals chamber's decision, on the pretrial chamber one's decision is still pending, are all related motions filed by the defense being reviewed simultaneously?
What do you mean by all other motions?
I mean, like, obviously, there's a decision by the appeals chamber with respect to the motion you submitted to disqualify the chief prosecutor can, but all of the other pending motion, indefinite adjournment, jurisdictional challenge, and
Yes, all of those matters are still live and active, and the appeals process on interim release does not impact on the timeline or the schedule for deciding other matters. In fact, we are busy, as you know, at the moment, litigating the issue of competency, fitness to stand trial.
Yeah.
I'm not at liberty to tell you exactly what's happening there, because once again, much of the information is subject to confidentiality. And I should like to stress that also in the matters relating to the former prosecutor, sorry, he's not the former prosecutor, he's still a prosecutor. Obviously, he's taken himself out on suspension. However, a decision on our request to disqualify him is, to the best of my knowledge, still subject to confidentiality.
Attorney, on that particular note, do you think that there is a reason to think otherwise, that the ICC handled all of the processes or the motions that the defense submitted with sufficient fairness and transparency?
I don't want to pass judgment on the ICC judges. It's not my position to do so. They have a job to perform. I have a job to perform. They make their decisions. If I believe that these decisions are erroneous, and I've told you that is legalese, then I file an appeal, and then the judges on appeal decide.
Attorney Nick, on a different matter, several civil society organizations have welcomed the pretrial chamber's once decision, expressing relief over the denial of the former president's interim release. How does the defense team respond to this public sentiment?
Well, I'm not going to criticize victims. It would be foolhardy for me to do so. I do criticize, however, the comments made by certain civil society activists, masquerading as lawyers sometimes, in the media, criticizing defense submissions, criticizing defense activity, criticizing decisions rendered either in favor of the defense or against the prosecution, whatever you have it. So the criticism, or can I put it, the relief, as you put it, expressed over the rejection of the former president's request for interim release, I believe to be misplaced. Once again, there are many things that I could talk about which offend me. Many things said by civil society activists, which I choose not to comment on.
Attorney, do you think that these reactions reflect a misunderstanding of the legal process, or do they reveal, rather, deeper political or emotional divides within and outside the Philippines?
Well, let me talk about outside the Philippines first of all, because wherever I go in the world, and I travel a lot, I have always been met with support, wholehearted support for the former president. I have not come across one person who has said, we don't want the president to come home. Everybody wants him to come back to the Philippines. So when you talk about dissent, there's certainly no dissent in the diaspora. Not at any rate, dissent that I've noticed. So I don't think that the criticism reveals anything too much. It just reveals the thoughts and impressions of a minority of civil society activists.
Attorney Nick, some detractors have criticized your handling of the case, suggesting that the Duterte family should consider appointing a new lead counsel. How do you respond to these criticisms?
Well, I know who those detractors are. A minority of people, a very vocal minority of people. At the end of the day, I'm not a magician. I'm doing my job. I'm doing the best I can. And furthermore, the former president is happy with me. And at the time that he should become unhappy with the way I'm performing, then he knows that he can fire me.
Attorney, what would you have to say to those who believe the defense strategy has not been effective so far, and how do you intend to strengthen your legal approach moving forward?
Well, it depends how you define success. If you define success in the matter of interim release, well, okay, we still have an appeal pending, and that's the only thing we've been unsuccessfully to date. The matter of competency is still pending. The matter of jurisdiction is still pending. Obviously, we've had a few requests to disqualify judges dismissed. I can't tell you what has happened with respect to the decision on the the current prosecutor who's now suspended. Maybe that will be released soon. I don't know.
Attorney Nick, just a quick moment or question with regards to the decision to disqualify the chief prosecutor. Does it have any effect at all, if at all, to the case of the former president before the ICC?
Once again, I can't comment on a decision because I don't know whether that decision has been made public or not. I can only tell you what I argued. What I argued was that the former prosecutor, I keep on saying the former prosecutor, it's the current prosecutor, current chief prosecutor, who has suspended himself. What I argued was that being conflicted, as I argued that he was, he couldn't have carried out an independent investigation which requires the search for exculpatory evidence. What is exculpatory evidence? That's evidence which can be used to acquit the former president. You see, the Office of the Prosecutor has resources that the defense doesn't have. And the Rome Statute, which is the constitution of the court, obliges the prosecutor to look for the truth. And by looking for the truth, he also has to consider exculpatory evidence. So what we argued was that having a prosecutor who formerly represented victims suddenly changing sides and becoming the prosecutor, he can't really carry out his role as the prosecutor as should be expected.